And they're unequivocally heritage Americans.
That's for sure.
100%.
They're definitely heritage Americans, if anyone is.
Nigga, please. This is mental warfare, okay, mind you. This is mental warfare. The moment in time you got more hatred and animosity and disdain for an African immigrant than Tucker Carlson and James Fishback, you've lost the plot, okay? That's how I know you really are a Black American, because I can tell that your brain has been conditioned. You have been conditioned for your own self-destruction.
See, that's how I know you're a tether. 1, you went bald at like 17. But 2, the FBA movement is not that hard to understand. To be completely honest, the FBA movement has emerged largely because Black Americans seek to regain the political identity that the Democratic Party and terms like African American have stolen from them. Okay, that's enough of that. Welcome back, brothers. First of all, it is not my intention to insult any of my viewers who may be bald. Being bald is not that big of a deal. I'm just having a little fun, and to be honest with you, I'm questioning the Amazing Lucas's claim that he's FBA. Same with Antonio Speaks. I don't really believe he's FBA, and the reason for that is because if they really were FBA, I don't think they would have this much trouble understanding why the movement has emerged. And I also just want to say, brothers, I know I said this video would be the economics video, but I wanted to take a slight detour because it is MLK Day. And I do want to pay tribute to Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy and give some thoughts on some of the modern day Martin Luther King talking points. Because I still believe that Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the greatest Americans who ever lived, and he made the ultimate sacrifice for the advancement of our people. And make no mistake about it, I see the civil rights movement as a foundational Black American achievement that many Black people have benefited from globally. So I believe all of this ties into some talking points that I want to get into. Now, last week, there was some slander made about the FBA movement from a few content creators who were, I believe, directed to slander the FBA movement from Democrat handlers. But that's speculation. You can put an allegedly in front of that. But this all started because Tucker Carlson and James Fishback, in a disingenuous Brad kind of way, had endorsed the FBA movement. And, as you know, midterm elections are at the end of the year. There are many Democratic candidates looking to regain Black voters. And they're worried about this FBA movement because it's politically agnostic. It's not a pro-Democrat movement. It's not a pro-Republican movement. It's a pro-tangibles movement for the descendants of American slaves. So again, as many content creators have already correctly stated, FBA is simply a lineage. But as far as politics go, the FBA movement is not concerned with voting blue no matter who. They're also not concerned with Republicans. They would rather vote for the couch than vote for either party if they're not delivering tangibles. And the main tangibles they want are slave reparations and a hate crime bill for Black Americans, similar to what Asians got during COVID. And I've mentioned this before on the channel. I'm an FBA American. My ancestry is mainly coming out of Arkansas and the Carolinas. And my family started off as slaves, then became sharecroppers. Then the men in my family worked on the railroads before migrating north ultimately. And I have a lot of family in the Maryland area. If you're from Maryland, you're probably my cousin because I have a huge family. But we migrated from Maryland on north through New York, Boston, etc. But what I like about this movement is it puts pressure on Democrats. And it says, if you're really the party for us, what is your plan? What can we count on you delivering? It gets rid of the Black vote being a generic given for Democrats so that they can just count on us being there and then ignore us after the election. But Democrats hate this movement because their old pandering tactics no longer work.
No more questions? They said no, she has to go.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I
yes.
just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people.
Okay. Is it working?
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
And make no mistake, it is my belief that Democrats have already figured out this traditional method of pandering to black people no longer works. I think Biden really exposed the Democratic Party when he made that comment, race shaming black people who don't want to vote for him. And the amount of black Americans who vote Republican now or don't vote at all has grown every election since. So obviously, there is a growing trend of black Americans realizing that their grievances are not being addressed by simply voting blue. There's no way around this. So since the Democratic Party has no intention of giving black Americans any real tangibles, their new play, and this is my belief again, is to pay black content creators to race shame black Americans back onto the Democratic plantation. And that may sound funny, but keep in mind, a lot of credit for Trump's win last election was given to platforms like Joe Rogan's podcast, Aiden Ross's, Nick Fuentes is out there. And Democrats are studying that. They're studying the impact that streamers and social media has on election outcome. So I would not scoff at the idea that some of these channels are paid or are plants.
Growing up in the hood, bro, we all got that one white person that's cool as hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they white, but they damn near black. They talk like us, mannerisms of us, and that's just because of the environment they grew up in. Like I say, bro, you're just a product of your environment. Like, that shit is...
Damn near black? No, they're white. We don't think like that. We don't think somebody damn near black. You think that. You think white people can be damn near black. We don't believe white people can be damn near black.
Not only that, but you show me the most down Brad you think you can find who's invited to the quote-unquote cookout, and you start dating Becky's around him and see how he acts. He could have 10 Keisha girlfriends, but you bring a Becky around that looks good, just watch how he acts.
No, you could be white and grow up in black American culture, but we think they're damn near black. No, we don't think that, nigga.
So stupid.
Who are African.
This video is unavailable. Did this nigga just delete the video?
Yes, he did, because once again, he didn't know what he was talking about. And that's what I'm saying. I don't believe this guy's FBA. How do you not understand what the movement's all about? It is not a pipeline to white supremacy. That's what he was trying to claim. It's furthest from that. It's completely separate from white thought. And it emerged because black Americans were starting to wake up and see not all black people think the same globally. We don't all see ourselves the same way, and we don't all want the same things out of America. And if you were actually FBA, you should have some personal connection to this. Like for me, my father grew up in a historically black neighborhood, and it used to be all black Americans. But in recent times, Jamaican immigrants have taken that neighborhood over, and they're very hostile to black Americans. A couple years ago, me and a bunch of other professional brothers, and I just want to say that, we were all dressed professionally, and we were of mixed age. Some of us were, it was from boomers on down, basically. And we were driving nice cars. We go to this neighborhood because one of the older brothers who knew my father actually grew up in that neighborhood. And he was schooling us on the history. And there were Jamaicans who got out of their house and gave us the, "what are you doing in this neighborhood" treatment. They didn't even know the history. They were treating us the way a Brad would treat you. Like, you ain't supposed to be here. They could tell just looking at us that we were FBA because we were all FBA. And they were giving us that kind of treatment. And we're on the street. We stood our ground. We said, hey, we have a connection to this neighborhood. This brother was just schooling us on the history, and we're going to stay right here. We're not on your property, so back up. But see, that's how it has to get around a lot of these black immigrants. because it's like they don't look at us the same. They don't look at us as brothers. And I'm not talking about all black immigrants, but I'm just saying, like, there is a sizable population of black immigrants that view black Americans as Akatas. They view our slave lineage as inferior, or they see themselves as more closely connected to Brads and Beckys or other groups of immigrants than they see themselves as connected to black Americans. And the Democrat Party and these Democratic shills are cowards for not calling that out. They want to put all the blame and the hate on black Americans for simply wanting to distance themselves from these white supremacist adjacent black immigrants who really look at Brads and Beckys as gods. And as far as Antonio Speaks goes, if your message is that we as black people should come together, that's great. I can respect that. But I don't agree with your method of doing so. You want to say, hey, we as black people need to come together. But if you're dating outside of your race as a black man, you're a raccoon. Hey, we as black people need to come together. But if you identify as a foundational black American, you're supporting a white supremacist pipeline. Like, brother, have some humility and actually learn about the things that you talk about before you make videos. And everything you do within the black diaspora has to come with respect first, or else you're not going to be uniting anyone.
That's crazy, man. I don't know what to say about people on the right aligning with FBAs. It's very concerning, and we got to watch out for it.
We need to talk about the rise in black American nationalism and the black American nationalist to white supremacist pipeline. Yes, white supremacist.
Yeah. Now, you notice one way that they police black thought is they try to push you into binary thinking. If you don't support democratic ideologies, feminism, pro-LGBTQ, pro-immigration, even if that immigration results in lowering your standard of living or your quality of life in America, then you're automatically a white supremacist. There's no nuance there at all. And it's because they're trying to police your thought. They're trying to race shame you.
We've seen the Jay Versace tweet that's been resurfacing, and in response, I've seen like quite a few black Americans make videos about that and say that you can always tell an African apart from an African American. Y'all are not like us, etc., etc. And before I even get too deep into that, I really want to ask you guys, what is the purpose of making that distinction? Don't tell me that as reparations, because that's a really stupid answer. And just to speak to that point, Africans are very diverse looking people.
Literally.
Yes, there are people you can look at them and tell they're African, just like you can look at some people and tell, oh, okay, that's a black American person. But if you go and get Africans who were born and raised in America or who moved to America at a very young age, you probably would not be able to tell. Most of you cannot, because people can't tell with me. It's literally not until you say so.
So I guess you go to Minneapolis right now, and you can't tell that them Somalis is Somalis because they grew up here or they were born here. I guess we can't tell.
Let me also say that Africans do this as well. They come here, they look for other Africans from their same country or tribe, and they self-segregate and exclude themselves from black American affairs. So I'm not going to play this game like FBA Americans are the only people who ever segregated themselves within the greater black populace for a common interest. We're actually late to that game.
Something, or until somebody sees your last.
I know we already reacted to this point, but I just thought about that. Like, it's just, this talking point is the dumbest talking point ever in the world. It's so crazy to me.
Saying that they're like, oh, and that honestly kind of brings me to my second point of this whole thing of Africans are cosplaying black Americans.
This talking point is so stupid because if you, let's say you move to an Asian country, you go to China. If you're living in that environment, you're going to adapt to the culture. You're going to live in that culture. You're going to be that culture. You're going to eat the same foods as them. You're going to dress the way they do. You're going to talk their language. That's not cosplaying. That's just assimilating. That's where you're living at. And like I said, bro, it's so ignorant. A lot of these dudes, like, they don't understand that they're living.
Here's okay, but to give some legitimacy though to what you do here in the FBA spaces in regards to the tethering and in regards to the cosplaying, you have immigrants who come to America and they look the part, they walk, they talk, they dress like black Americans, but in their politics and in their ideologies, they are anti-black American.
Yes.
They're anti-black.
Exactly.
This is what.
You know, let me just say one thing about Young Don Reacts, because, you know, one commenter said that he lives his life differently than what he preaches on YouTube. And I did a little more research on him, and I get the idea that he's just part of a greater network of streamers and he has to relay certain talking points. It's financially motivated, but you can tell behind the scenes, bro is living more like an SYSBM guy than someone who's pro-black. And you can tell here, and I can tell in other videos, there's things he wants to say, but he doesn't want to upset his sponsorship. He doesn't want to upset his network behind the scenes. And you can tell here as well. You can tell he doesn't agree with what Antonio Speaks is saying, but he's trying to hype up his boy because they're working together behind the scenes. And I first noticed this when he made that Jordan Pauline video that got taken down. I said, oh, okay, hang on a second. This guy knows what we're talking about. He just can't speak on it because it would compromise him financially. And I also want to say, because he comes from a Jamaican background, you being a black immigrant does not make you a tether. You trying to undermine black American political efforts and economic efforts under the guise of I'm different than them because of my culture is what makes you a tether. But I'm cool with working with black men from all different backgrounds as long as it comes with a respect first mindset. You respect me, I respect you. I feel the same way about Neferkari Dessalines. If the respect is there, the next time Brads want to make a move on Haiti, you will have my support.
The whole thrust of the FBA.
This nigga deleted the video too. Oh my god. Oh, nigga. That's cahoots, nigga. These niggas is in cahoots, nigga. They in cahoots. And you can't run from this, nigga. These niggas in cahoots, nigga. You niggas are in cahoots. This nigga deleted the video too, nigga. Hell no, you ain't just delete the video. Oh, who this nigga just deleted the video too? No, y'all niggas just wildin'.
This was pretty crazy, and I found this video pretty funny. But this also confirms a lot of my suspicions. You see, there's more social engineering going on behind the scenes than you think. A lot of these videos are released in coordination to deliver a unified message. At this point, that's going to be pretty hard to dispute. I mean, we're seeing it in real time. I think they really messed up with the FBA messaging. But see, I think there's some type of handler that's promoting this message behind the scenes. And I can only think that it's democratic because the messaging is always very democratic. If you don't know, Antonio Speaks released another video later on where he goes on rants about there's too much homophobia in the black community and it's like yada yada, the same old democratic talking points. So that's why I assume that's the space that it's coming from. It's never really about black interests as much as it's about ushering us back onto the plantation. When it comes to dating advice, black men, we need to go back to dating Keisha. Just forget about our concerns and grievances. When it comes to politics, black Americans, don't you dare think about going off and creating your own thing to protect your interests. You need to come back to this plantation. And then that brings us to the amazing Lucas, who less than 24 hours from here, where you had the video removal debacle from Antonio Speaks and Young Don Reacts, the amazing Lucas comes out with a video of his own with the same talking points. Brothers, I don't believe in coincidences. Something is going on here. And what you have to understand is over the last 10 years, from 2016 to now, there has been a hard shift in male demographics towards alternative ideologies, even outside of the black community. But within our community, the black monolith is gone, especially in the younger demographics. They've got Red Pill to tackle. They've got SYSBM to tackle. They've got the Greater Black Manosphere to tackle. They've even got a smaller population of black fascists to tackle. It is hard to usher everyone in onto one banner now. And it's mostly coming from the male demographic because traditionally, progressive ideologies have been anti-male, especially anti-black man. So Democrats have been working very hard to switch up their messaging. You can see it in clips like this.
I do want to bring up, and to me, I feel like this is something, not to point fingers or the blame, because I feel like when you divide, obviously that's when you conquer, right? But a big part of the people that I know was not going for Kamala, let's just talk about that whole situation. It wasn't us. It wasn't the black women that wasn't going out and voting. Honestly, I spoke to a lot of black men, and they were not going out to vote.
Statistics tell us that most black men that voted did vote for Kamala.
Exactly. Well, I'm talking about people like now on radio, I have a lot of people that call in, and they made it very, very clear that they were never going to vote for Kamala ever, is what they said. They said they'd take anyone over her.
So I will say this. So having experienced this myself, I can speak from a place of both power and information. Okay. Sexism is absolutely real in every community. Racism is absolutely real. But let's look at the data. And what the data says is that black men support black women. Black women support black women the most. Yeah. But the next highest support system, black men. Now, a lot of folks who call in to tell you what they are going to do weren't planning to do anything anyway.
They didn't vote at all.
And so we need to remember that disinformation often comes by planting people in our communities to fracture our belief systems. Black men voted for me at the same rate they voted for Raphael Warnock. But if you heard the news, black men couldn't stand me, and that is designed to fracture our communities. I think it is so important that you raise that, because one of the misinformation points is that they leverage our inherent mistrust of systems to convince us that we don't have the support that we need.
That's right.
My responsibility is to never let them tell me that my brothers don't love me as much as my sisters do.
Amen. That's right.
But the other reality is that when they do those exit polls, you got to remember, we are 13% of the population. How exactly are you finding a representative sample when you're only talking to one or two people in every state? They then extrapolate from that in ways that shape narratives but defy math.
That's right.
And so we can't let them tell us who we are.
Brothers, this is nothing more than AC's reach back from the political sphere. Don't fall for it. When Kamala lost, most Keishas were online blaming black men. And just between you and me, I would never vote for an alleged Keisha because the jury was out on that. Married to a Brad. I would never vote for that. How are my interests represented in that? Who's gonna fight for black men? And notice the double talk. Sexism is real. That's their real ideology, brother, because the thing is, and I've spoken on this before, they play the race game to get you back on the plantation, but they are fervent believers in sexism. So once you go back to the plantation, when you try to rule, when you try to actually take charge and become a leader, they're going to hit you with the sexism. Oh, he's oppressing me. He's trying to hold me to some type of standard. I'm being oppressed. This is sexism. Do not fall for this. And if she really wants to support me, let's start talking about those slave reparations.
And I got to take a second to say something to so many young people who are out there. And I'm going to say it to one person who's waited 49 years to hear it. Little black boy, you were worth it. And you always were. And without any titles, you were enough. You were always enough. And you deserve to accept love, and you deserve to be protected. And I'm honored to be here to help create a city that's worthy of that for you. And I'm so proud of you.
Brother, I feel you on this, and I want to support you, but let's get to work on some tangibles. Because I got to be honest with you, I've given up on the political system. It's great that you want to fight for me, but a politician should have been fighting for me about 30 years ago. Boomers should have been fighting for me about 30 years ago. Now it's time to look elsewhere. If you want to surprise me with some tangibles, that'll be great, but I won't be expecting it. And there's one more thing I want to say about the Amazing Lucas's video before we move on to MLK.
Because they're big upping these people for mentioning, FBA and Tether and like, oh, we've made it. I saw one post where this person actually said that. It was like, Negro, we made it. We did it.
Yeah, pretty sure that was a joke, and more of a shout out to Tariq Nasheed than anything. But see, they're desperately scraping for evidence of their imaginary talking points.
And this is why we can't have nice things, because instead of actually wanting empowerment, instead of actually wanting freedom, there is a group of these black Americans who are nothing more than Sambo soldiers themselves, but they have managed to do mental gymnastics to try and act as if they're for black empowerment, and they're about the black people, okay? We really about black people and everything. But in all actuality, they're nothing more than, Sambo soldiers.
He's out of line, but he's right.
No, Anthony Mackie, he's actually not. And let's go back a little bit to this gem for a second.
We can't have nice things, because instead of actually wanting empowerment, instead of actually wanting freedom.
Yeah, I didn't realize freedom and empowerment for black Americans was on the ballot. FBA, again, has nothing to do with a pat on the head or seeking white validation. It's actually the opposite. It's saying you will not get our vote if you're not promising us anything. As FBA Americans, we do not care about Tucker Carlson or James Fishback or getting a pat on the head. You do. When you vote blue, all you're doing is voting for feminism and immigrant rights. There's nothing for black men on the ballot. This dude's acting like Marcus Garvey's running for office and we're saying, nah, we don't like him. He's not FBA. Our interests are simply not represented in the modern day political system, so we're walking away.
Instead of actual policy legislation, they want acknowledgement, and this is where we are.
What policies and legislation are on the ballot that would benefit me as a heterosexual black American man?
This is why we get, because they constantly want to complain about Democrats, right? The hustle is they're not for Republicans, but all the criticism is levied against Democrats. Bro, that's COINTELPRO.
No, brother, you're COINTELPRO. Brothers like you who claim they're FBA, but there's no paperwork behind it. You flip-flop multiple times throughout the year. First you're Republican and Nick Fuentes isn't a white supremacist. Then you're a centrist but pro-black. Now you're a pro-Democrat and you're not black unless you vote for Kamala and anybody else who's blue. And you never seem to have a real job, whether your views are high or low. So I do wonder who's been paying you throughout the years.
What are we talking about? A lot of these Negroes have already gotten the $7K check from Israel. We already know that.
Brother, you're literally talking about yourself. I mean, didn't you have direct ties to Charlie Kirk at one point in time? Not to mention, what Democrat is anti-Israel? Have I been in a coma for 10 years or something, or is this guy completely full of shit?
What you need to realize is that they know that these Negroes just want a pat on the head. They know that they don't really want reparations. They don't care about reparations. They don't care about, police reform. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about black women dying in the hospital. What they want is a pat on the head.
Again, voting Democrat doesn't change any of that. And if you're not COINTELPRO, why are you intentionally misrepresenting a grassroots black American movement? Yes, they do care about reparations. They care so much that they're willing to walk away from the entire political process if they don't get it.
Are the same group of people who tell you to sit on the couch. Hashtag sit on the couch. These are the same group of people who don't know who the representatives are.
I love this classic argument too. You don't even know who your representatives are. Okay, and I learn who they are, and then what? I call them up on the phone. Hello, my local representative? I sure would love some slave reparations. Like, how does that get me any closer to what I actually want, bro? Either the Democrats want to play ball or they don't. It's no different than Keisha. You don't have to debate for 10 years. Either they want to work with you or they don't.
Don't know who represents them in Congress, much less the House or the Senate. Don't know how basic civics, but they want to tell you hashtag cut the check. These are the same group of people that will attend a reparations rally with no one in any position of power attending the reparations rally.
Well, shouldn't the Democrats be breaking down the door to be part of such a rally if they really represent my interests? Like, I don't think that argument is the own that you think it is. But this entire video has showed that you don't even understand what you're talking about. I don't believe you're FBA. I do believe you're COINTELPRO or something adjacent to that. I'm just not buying it. I need to start seeing paperwork for the Amazing Lucases and the Antonio Speaks and anybody who's trying to play pro-black revolutionary. Because you guys, like, I don't understand. It comes off like you don't even, like you haven't even lived the black American experience. I'm going to be honest with you.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
And to bring it home, brothers, I will not take up much more of your time, but I do want to deliver a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. And it's not a typical tribute. It's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be in line with my other messaging from the channel. It also is in line with two themes that I've previously presented. One of them being Keisha is the main promoter of anti-black male propaganda that gets pushed into the mainstream. The other talking point is that the Democratic Party simply uses race as a talking point to get the black man to the polls. But in reality, they will always default to feminist ideology. And when a black man is looking to rule or seek leadership, they will destroy his image with claims of sexism, abuse, infidelity, etc. And this even extends to Martin Luther King Jr. Now, a couple years ago, there was a vandalism act against Martin Luther King's home in Atlanta, Georgia.
Out here earlier, right now, there are just so many questions that still remain. We have some incredible video of this incident, though. I want you to take a look at this. Witnesses say that is the suspect in the act holding that red canister. The 26-year-old woman has been arrested, accused of attempting to vandalize Martin Luther King Jr.'s birth home here in Atlanta. This home here along Auburn Avenue has been undergoing renovations, so has been closed to the public for the last couple weeks. Witnesses told police the woman came up to the home carrying a gas can before 6 p.m. They say that she then proceeded to douse the plants and porch with what they say smelled like gasoline. The bystanders, who included two off-duty NYPD officers, jumped into action and pinned her down until APD showed. Later, they told cops they intervened when they saw her try to light a lighter.
You know, I get a brother from time to time in the comment section who goes, Keisha's our natural counterpart. And I've said many times before, Keisha's are our counterpart in looks only. Ideologically, we're completely different. So here's your counterpart right here, attempting to burn down the childhood home of Martin Luther King Jr. And when this happened, I remember Tariq Nasheed saying, oh, that was a tether. That wasn't an FBA. That was a tether. But I knew it was an FBA woman. I knew. You know why I knew? Because Keisha is the main promoter of anti-black male propaganda. And prior to this incident, there has been a steady campaign from Keisha's attempting to destroy Martin Luther King Jr.'s image. And it started with that movie Selma.
When it comes to making a biopic, I was curious, what's most important to you? The historical accuracy, authenticity, or the subject's humanity?
Well, for that one, all of them. I mean, it was important we want to show King as human, so that's historically accurate. Anything else is not historically accurate. He smoked, he overate, you know what I mean? He had relationships outside of his marriage.
When they say depict him as human, they just mean they want to talk shit about him, they want to dirty up his image and focus on anything they can depict as negative, rather than focus on the a million positive things MLK was able to accomplish. And it was largely this information about affairs that Martin Luther King had that sparked this onset of feminist black circles creating negative propaganda around Martin Luther King.
I'm such a bitter, unforgiving bitch that I didn't even forgive Martin Luther King for cheating on his wife. They're like, he's so good because he fought segregation and shit. He did that shit so he could cheat on his wife. I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck.
You know who else cheated? All the time. Did you guys hear about this? Martin Luther King cheated on Coretta all the time. Did you guys know that? Martin Luther King cheated on Coretta Scott King with 45 women. Yes, that's everyone in this room times 7.
And there were simps as well. I'd be remiss not to mention that.
What's more important, the fact that Martin Luther King is the man that fought for freedom, or the fact that he was cheating on his wife?
Let me just say this as plainly as I possibly can. It's way more important that Martin Luther King fought for freedom. I do not care at all if Martin Luther King cheated on his wife with the entire population of Becky's. I don't care. I hope he had all the sex he can handle. You know why? Because he died at 39. Most of the people talking shit about him would not die for anything. Not even their own self-interest. They would cower and tuck their tail and run in the other direction at the sign of the slightest adversity, let alone die for the needs of the many. I hear so much irrelevant bullshit coming from these feminist spaces. Oh, Martin Luther King really wanted to date a white woman. He had a white woman in college. Okay, cool. Who was Coretta Scott King sleeping with in college? Do you know? Have you even looked into that? Nah, you don't care because it's just about anti-black male propaganda. Now, are there other more credible critiques of MLK, such as whether integration was the best move for black Americans, or questions about his background and connection to socialism and the CIA and how his father had him change his name? Sure. We can go down that rabbit hole. Those are more credible critiques. But I am not entertaining, oh, he cheated sometimes and he didn't pay a parking ticket once and he yelled at a couple people. I don't care. Okay, he overate. Who gives a shit? I do not care. None of that matters. I'll tell you what. I don't know what the truth is behind all possible narratives. But what I do know is I like the freedom that he fought for. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm happy that I don't have to drive around with a Negro motorist green book worried about every town. Am I going to get lynched here? Am I going to get lynched here? Now, modern day lynchings do occur. They are a problem, but nowhere near as big a problem as they were pre-civil rights. I'm happy that I can go to any establishment that I choose to, and trust me, plenty of them I don't go to. But I'm happy I have the choice without being arrested or chased out with bats. I'm happy I can look a Brad in the eye. I'm happy that I can do that. And I hear the argument a lot that, oh, we were better off during segregation. No, we weren't. We were an underclass. We had less rights than Brad's and Becky's did. In fact, we had less rights than everybody. Did it force us to practice proper economics? Sure. But at what cost, brother? You were a boy, not a man in that system. And if Brad wanted to take your woman in that system, he was free to do so. You were not free to date his women. I'm not interested in joining a system where Keisha is forced to be compliant with me. I want to work with people who value my leadership off rip. They just get what I'm about. Because that's what the pro-segregation people don't understand. Keisha was forced to work with you. She never really wanted to, and anytime there was a loophole or a chance she could get out, she advocated for that. So no thanks. I am not interested in being locked in a steel cage with Keisha. I'm enjoying the freedoms that I have today. The two main demographics I think don't appreciate it are Brad's and Keisha's, because they had the most control over their respective partners prior to integration. And I'm not done yet, brothers. There's one more piece of slander that wasn't just against Martin Luther King, but was against the SCLC. If you don't know, that's the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That's the organization in which Martin Luther King belonged to that pushed and funded the civil rights movement.
Time passes, and E.D. Nixon, the president of their local chapter of the NAACP is like, we need to start a bus boycott. And this bus boycott will start a revolution. We should use Claudette Colvin's arrest as a reason to boycott the buses. People get behind her. Then they were like, oh, but not white people because she has darker skin. And we can't have a 15-year-old as the face of the anti-segregation movement. But we can have Rosa Parks as the face of this movement. So...
First of all, rest in peace, Claudette Colvin. She passed away last week. And while it is true that she was the original person who started the Montgomery boycott because she was the original person who refused to give up her seat, the reason that they gave for the SCLC going with Rosa Parks is false. It was not because of colorism. No one cared that Claudette Colvin was dark-skinned. Most of the people in the SCLC were dark-skinned. It had nothing to do with that. Claudette Colvin was 15 and pregnant. And the person who got her pregnant was a much older Brad, like very much an adult. The SCLC didn't like the imagery of that because that was going to be the first thing that white conservatives attacked. So they chose Rosa Parks because her image was clean. It had nothing to do with colorism. Again, colorism is a made-up talking point. The reason they omitted that history fact from this program is just because they didn't want to dirty up Keisha's image. But they're always willing to dirty up a black man's image because the SCLC was a largely black male-run organization. So it is anti-black male propaganda, believe it or not. And I always say, you know, Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, she could have wrote a story about that much older Brad and how he managed to get Claudette Colvin pregnant while she was underage. But instead, she chose to write a book about a fictional black man, Mr., who's dealing with women who are underage. Accountable Commentary is very correct in his assertion that Keisha's protect Brad's image at the expense of the productive black man's image. But brothers, in conclusion, thanks for watching, and rest in peace Martin Luther King Jr., and rest in peace anyone else who sacrificed themselves for the advancement of our people during the civil rights movement. I know there's many unsung heroes and many contributors that many do not even know about. But I will not let your sacrifice go in vain, and I will not let your movement be slandered. Again, brothers, thanks for watching.
I'm tired of marching. Tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. I don't mind saying to you tonight. I don't mind saying to you tonight that I'm tired of the tension surrounding our day. I don't mind saying to you tonight that I'm tired of living every day under the threat of death. I have no martyr complex. I want to live as long as anybody in this building tonight, and sometimes I begin to doubt whether I'm going to make it through. I must confess I'm tired.